Today we're in Key West, Florida. Welcome to episode 29 of the vlog from Key West, Florida, recorded September of 2020. We had a couple of cruises in 2020 that we were supposed to do and they were canceled, so Key West was one of our backup plans. And here in the video, we are at the beginning of our food tour.
I'll tell you that as we go place to place, I'm going to share with you some architecture, some history of the island. And the first place I want to share with you really quickly happens to be across the street. And that green house right there is the George Carey house. And George Carey, in the early 1800s, was a ship captain. And he wanted to get off the water, so he decided to go into the liquor business. He became the very first wholesale liquor salesman in Key West, and in the early 1800s, and actually early 1830s. And because he was the only wholesale liquor salesman on the island, this man made a killing for himself and made a lot of money. And so he decided to build his own house. In 1834, he built this structure, but initially when it was first built, it was only a single-story house that had 2 bedrooms with a cookhouse on the backhand side of it. But 10 years later, in 1844, he got married to his wife, and she wanted to start a family, so she asked him to expand on the house, and that's when they built the second story. This particular building itself is the second built dwelling in Key West history. It also has its own freshwater well right on premise on the left side of the house, where you see that pirate sign.
That still works.
Yes, still works. And George Carey lived here with his wife and family for many years. But after this house had passed through many hands, but significantly, 100 years later in 1934, this house was purchased by a lady named Miss Jessie Porter. Miss Jessie Porter happened to be Key West socialite, meaning she do all the parties for the locals down here. In the 1930s, Key West only had about 5,000 or 6,000 people that resided here on this island. And if you were going to any party, it was right here thrown by Miss Jessie Porter. Different theme parties throughout the whole entire year. And they became so infamous that we started to get a lot of writers and poets to visit Key West. And those writers and poets started coming to these parties. And they happened to be Gloria Swanson, Truman Capote, Wallace Stevens, Pauline and Ernest Hemingway, but most prevalent happened to be Robert Frost, who came here 16 straight winters because he enjoyed Key West so much. He said it was such an inspirational place. He didn't do any writing down here, but he really enjoyed staying here. He found it to be such a wonderful, high, vibrant place that you can't really see right now, but on the back side of this driveway will be a single-story cottage. You'll see it as you pass by, and that's where Robert Frost stayed when he came and hung out in Key West. Thought it was just a phenomenal place to just come and relax, I guess collect thoughts, something like that. Come right this way, guys. But before we do, one other house I want to share with you. This is right across the street. If you go to that sign, that says the birthplace of Pan Am World Airways. If you don't know already, this is the very first headquarters of Pan Am. In the year 1927, Pan Am came down, outbid another airline to start bringing people and airmail from here to Havana, Cuba, and back. And very successfully they did so. But initially coming down here, what they didn't realize was Key West had no airport, nor did it have any airplanes. And so they asked the city if they could build them their headquarters. And they did, but this building was initially built on Duval Street, at the end of Duval Street. And that's where they operated out of, but they had to supply their own seaplanes in order to bring the people and the airmail back and forth. So for 3 years, they killed it. And what I mean by that is they made so much money and built up so much clientele within those 3 years that in 1930 they requested from the city of Key West to build them a second larger headquarters because that's how big the business had gotten within 3 years time. But the city of Key West didn't have the capacity or land mass to build anything larger than what you see in front of you. So immediately they then shut the doors, moved up to moved up to Miami and opened up their second largest headquarters. When they vacated this building, Miss Jessie Porter, who I just introduced to you, purchased this building from Duval Street and relocated it to this particular location. She ended up partnering with a girlfriend of hers and made it into a little craft shop. So when you were coming to visit Key West, you want to get t-shirts or books or memorabilia, this is where you came. Has everybody seen the movie Top Gun?
Yes.
Well, in the movie Top Gun, there's an infamous actress, Kelly McGillis. Kelly McGillis came to Key West, caught the keys disease, fell in love with it, and decided she was going to reside here. She wanted her own restaurant. So she found, as she's circling around, looking at all of Key West, she found this building, fell in love with the layout. And she found the owner was Miss Jessie Porter, so she introduced herself and told her idea about turning this into a restaurant. They both agreed upon it. This became Kelly's. And Kelly's was now one of the biggest restaurants down here, downtown Key West. But not only was it a great restaurant that had the memorabilia of World Airways, but it was now known as the southernmost brewery because she batched 3 small batches of craft brews that no one else had ever done. So people came down here to get special brews as they came here to get something to eat. Today it's called First Flight. First Flight happens to be the sister restaurant to a restaurant called 915 and another restaurant called Bagatelle, which is your next tasting on the food tour today. All 3 restaurants have had their menus created by the same chef. So if you like your next tasting, you might be encouraged to come and try food at First Flight or 915 because it's all done excellent.